Setting the drag on your reel is not as simple as you think. There's some science you should consider, and I'm going to share a trick on how to get back to that same optimum setting once you figure out what that is. Stay tuned. We've all been there. If you've ever lost a fish because your drag wasn't set properly, that should be the inspiration to learn about the variables that impact the optimum drag setting. And from my perspective, there's 4 of them. The first is the breaking strength of your line. The second is the breaking strength of your knot. Not all knots will hold at 100% of the breaking strength of the line. In fact, none of them do. So the knot you pick impacts that breaking strength as well. Then something a lot of people don't think about is the rod power and action. And a lot of this goes to the confusion around what is power and what is action. So action is really just where the rod bends. A fast action is going to bend at the tip. Rod power, which is something that's going to impact the breaking strength of the line, is where is the resistance of the rod to bending. So a heavy power rod is not going to bend as much, and that's going to put more tension on the line in terms of fighting the fish. So on a heavy power rod, your drag has got to pick up the slack. On a medium power rod, the rod and the drag will work together. And then the final thing you need to worry about is abrasion. If you fish in an area where your line is likely to be abraded, you need to take that into consideration as you set your breaking strength, because you don't want to lose a fish on a lightly abraded line because your drag was set too tight. So, what is the right drag setting for line? Well, I've seen recommendations all over the place. Some experts say 25%, others say 50%, but the bottom line is you have to set the drag much lighter than the breaking strength of your line. So here's how I do the math and then how I verify that I've set the drag properly. I've got 20-pound braid on this rod right here. It's a medium fast action rod, so I know that the tip is going to bend, and I know the power is going to work with my drag as I fight the fish. So I've decided that given that I use a Palomar knot, which is pretty strong, I've seen tests that say the strength of a Palomar is up to 90%, I'm going to set the drag on this to 10 pounds, so half the breaking strength of the line. Now, how do I know what 10 pounds is? Well, the first thing you got to do is put a big old hairy swivel on here, and then you get your Boca grips or something like that that will give you a weight indication when you weigh a fish. And you can use this to figure out what the breaking strength of your rod is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull against my reel until this reads 10 pounds. Then I know I've got it set at 10 pounds. Now, I got to pull against that and then, of course, have it release at 10 pounds. I don't want to have it go and hold over 10 pounds. Now, it's easier to do this with a buddy, but you can also do it by yourself if you don't have the rod strung up like I do right here. So let me go ahead and reconfigure, and I'll show you how that works. I've reconfigured here. I've got my Boca grips and the rod. Let me get that out of the way. And now I'm going to pull against this and see what the pound test setting is on the Boca. So that's starting to release at 2 pounds, much too light. So I'll tighten it down and I'll repeat that until I have this set at 10. Okay, I've got it set properly. My Boca grips is reading 10 pounds on the scale, so I know this is set at 10. So now the question is, you know, as you mess with your rods and change line and things like that, how do you know to get it back to 10 pounds if you've messed with it? Well, my trick is that you know what the setting is right now, and you can either turn it all the way tight or all the way loose. I prefer going all the way tight. And what I'm going to do, if I can get this rod organized here, is count the number of twists. So 1, 2, so a little over 2 twists, and it's totally tight. So now when I want to go reset it to 10 pounds, I'll tighten it all the way down and then turn it back 2 full twists, and I know that I'm pretty close to 10 pounds. There you go. That's how I figure out my drag setting. Now, whether 50% is the right answer for you or is it 25, that's what you got to figure out. You know, once you set it at, like at this, at 10 pounds, if you think that that feels a little too tight, well then back it off a little bit. You know, at least you know where the 10 pounds is, and then you can maybe do it another twist back to get it to 8 pounds. It's, again, a judgment call. The key thing is to make sure your drag is actually set where it's going to work in conjunction with your line. Comments? Do you guys have a good way to figure out the drag setting on reels? If so, throw it in the comments below, because I hate losing fish.